Hello, everybody. Welcome to Impact Talks, the show where we explore how organizations and individuals are creating positive change in India and the world at large. I'm your host, Adarsh, and today I'm delighted to have Ms. Sarita Bahl with me. She's an alumnus of Tata Institute of Social Sciences and the Swedish Institute of Management program. She leads corporate social responsibility function for Bayer South Asia and is also the director of Bayer Foundation India. As chairperson of the board of Bayer Foundation India, Ms. Bahl formulates the CSR strategy and ensures its implementation, which includes project selection, plan of action, allocation of appropriate budgets, and overall alignment with business and national priorities. She also supervises the complete monitoring and evaluation process for the projects for all seven legal entities for Bayer Group in India. As an experienced and versatile leader for over 3 decades, Ms. Bahl has over the years successfully overseen the communication, public affairs function, and led the corporate social responsibility strategy for leading organizations like Bayer South Asia, Pfizer, and Monsanto, among others. Ms. Bahl has also held multiple roles across various and diverse industries, public sector, trade association, MNCs, and for not-for-profit sector. Her areas of interest includes advocacy, stakeholder engagement, sustainability, and communications. As an associate certified coach from International Coaching Federation and senior practitioner mentoring for the European Council of Mentoring and Coaching, Ms. Bahl specializes in career transition, inner engineering, and life issues. She enjoys writing and is a regular contributor to the weekly Reputation Today magazine. She's passionate about animals, books, and movies. Ms. Bahl, welcome to Impact Talks.
Thank you, Adarsh. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm privileged and honored to be here.
So, without it, ma'am, it's our honor to have you on the show. And without further ado, let's jump right into the conversation. And ma'am, before we explore your notable professional journey and expertise, considering your remarkable background, I am keen to learn, and I'm sure my audience is as well, about the inspiration for working in the development sector. Could you please give us some insight in your personal journey that sparked this commitment towards the development sector?
I never wanted to work in the development sector.
Okay.
And it's funny, this question takes me back many, many years. I have a twin sister, Savita, and unfortunately, due to certain health reasons, she stayed behind me in academics for 2 years. Which means by the time I graduated in life sciences, that is genetics immunology from Mumbai University, and I had filled in my application form for masters in library science because I was very fond of books and I was very enamored by my librarian who introduced me to the whole classification system of books. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I want to do this." Right. I also looked at that time the diploma in laboratory technology, the semi pathology course. It was just booming. I said, I must do this also. And then, the MSc was biotech and JNU was the only option. I had never stayed in a hostel, so I was not keen to leave Mumbai and go and stay in a hostel in Delhi. And at that time, when I was passing out my BSc, my twin got into the first year of social work from Nirmala Niketa. Okay, what is social work? And then during that vacation period before results come out, she had her practical sessions and she would go for field work. And I would accompany her, and she's working in a municipal school, working with school dropout children. I said, "What is this? This is fascinating. I've never come across something like this. How do I get into this?" And so then I said, "Let me apply for masters in Nirmala Niketan or TISS." I got into TISS, and rest is history. That's how I got into social development. It was never there in my radar, you know.
But that's amazing, ma'am. I mean, for professional with an experience like you, and given the history of social work in India is also not very low. It's 1980s, 1970s where the advent of social work really started conceptualizing, and even in Indian universities. I mean, I'm from Jamia, so I would say where our institution started in 1970s. So it's wonderful to hear your story, ma'am. Uh, Given that, ma'am, you also are associate certified coach for International Coaching Federation and senior practitioner mentoring for European Council for Mentoring and Coaching. You bring a very nuanced approach for in your leadership? I mean, these are not kind of mentoring styles that we generally see across the board in the social sector. So in this context, could you please share that how these kind of skills of yours relating to career transition, inner engineering, influence your approach, your leadership approach in CSR, and when you are making CSR plans for BER or any of the legal entities of BER India? And how do you think that these are holds importance and value in the sector at large?
No, I think that's a great question you've asked because it's an opportunity for me to put across how coaching and mentoring are two enabling tools that leaders can effectively use, not just for their own team, but also for their NGO partners, right? And create a very different learning environment out there. So, mentoring is where an individual brings in their years of experience and wisdom and shares with the team, and say, the team can take guidance from the experiences. Coaching, on the other hand, is a very self-reflective process where the coach, through a process of questioning, makes the team member reflect and come out with answers. So the coach gives no guidance, and in fact, the team is empowered to look at answers. And I think that's the approach that really works in leadership. When you tell, there is a problem and you tell the team, what do you think should be done? Rather than saying, I think this needs to be done. So that's the fundamental difference. Now, what happens when you tell your team, what do you think is the solution? How or what do you think should our strategy be to solve a particular social development issue? What do you think we should be doing next? You are opening yourself to listening. And I need to say this, Adarsh, because listening is not taught to us in any school. No school teaches you how to listen with full attention. And when you listen with full attention, you are going to pick up what your team member is telling you, what your implementation partner is telling you, right? Second, when you are allowing the others to bring their perspective, you are stepping back with a non judgmental attitude. You are not listening, saying, but whatever this person is saying is all rubbish. I know it will not work, or your biases are not going to come in. So that opens the door to new ideas to flow in, right? You are also then, allowing your team to learn how to communicate what they want to say, the clarity that they bring to the table. So I think when you use these elements or competences of coaching in your leadership style, whether it is with your team, whether it is with a colleague, or it could be even with the other leaders in the company, or even with your partners, I have seen very the empowerment that has come with the team and with the partners as to the confidence it gives them and the ownership and accountability it brings in them. This is an idea I have proposed. It has been accepted. I need to deliver. I don't think there can be anything more beautiful than that.
Absolutely, ma'am. You feel
Yeah.
part of the process. You feel that you take that.
Indeed.
That's how you take the ownership of the process. Ma'am, moving on to the organization that you represent, primarily it operates on two key pillars, that is science and partnerships. The science portfolio supports groundbreaking advancements, while partnerships aims to transform communities, especially focusing on health, nutrition, and working with farmers for and other vulnerable populations. Ma'am, with this context, could you share the insights on how BEAR effectively aligns its works and in science and partnership to achieve a vision that is best vision, that is the world with a health for all and hunger for none? How did you came up with this kind of a vision, and how effectively their vision is, with what effective techniques they're trying to achieve this vision?
So, others, the mission Health for All, Hunger for None is a global mission, right? And it comes from the two key businesses that Bayer is into, which is pharmaceuticals, which is why we say health for all, and then the crop science, which is agriculture, and that's where the food sufficiency nutrition piece comes in, hunger for none. So all our projects are therefore, fundamentally aligned with this particular mission of the company: health for all, hunger for none. Now you have this vision in front of you. The question is, how do you translate this, right, into action? How do you sort of, ensure that you have partners, or you bring in innovativeness in your projects, keeping this particular mission as sacrosanct, as the building block to everything that we do. So, what we look at in India to our CSR is that, can we have an ecosystem and a holistic approach, right? Which means, can you address food security and the healthcare piece together in the same geography instead of spreading ourselves thin? And allow me to give you an example. We are currently, working in aspirational districts. And I say this with a lot of pride because we are one of the very few corporates who are working in aspirational districts. Not everybody goes there. India has around 112 aspirational districts. And, only less than 2% of the CSR contribution goes there. We felt, when we mapped the Human Development Index and we looked at the business priorities and what could come out, we felt these locations were ones that needed attention. They were the truly underserved communities. And, when we spoke with stakeholders, it came up again and again. These communities had no means to harness benefit of healthcare, technology, or resources, and women had very little say in being agents of change. So it became very clear to us that we need to bring the whole mission statement, health for all, hunger for none, in this particular community. So our projects, if we are running projects for, say, farmers, smallholder farmers, where we are reviving dormant food processor, FPOs, then we are bringing the healthcare, the setting of a telemedicine center also in the same geography, in the same aspirational district, so that each one benefits the other. So, for example, if I'm having a farmer awareness program, then the healthcare partner will ensure that a health camp is put up over there on that day. Right? Similarly, who comes to the health center? It's the farmers, their families, their children. So the whole idea was, can we merge together and create a powerful program having that contributes both to innovation, partnerships, and the mission statement. And so that's how we did it, looking at a very holistic approach, and that makes it more sustainable because the community is vested into it, and you see the difference that happens.
Right. Ma'am, could you also share with our audience, because given that this approach, that holistic approach that Bayer takes towards this project, what are some of the projects that Bayer under its CSR strategy has conceptualized, which are having significant impact on the ground? And what would be your takeaway as a leader, so that other leaders in the CSR sector can follow from those kind of projects? Those project with the best practices and everything.
Yeah. So, let me say about the flagship project that we have of reviving and strengthening dormant FPOs. So we have picked up 40 FPOs in across 12 aspirational districts in the country, and the whole objective was to revive them and then have them take them through a capacity building program of integrated farm management, understand the governance and compliance issues of setting up an FPO, and then sort of giving them access to, how do you make them sustainable by helping them set up enterprises, whether it is through quality inputs or soil testing machines or digitization of FPOs. And we have noticed, the impact of the project has been phenomenal. There has been almost like 1.34 times increase in the shareholder base. There is 100% of the FPOs now conduct statutory meetings regularly. 100% of the FPOs now follow documentation requirements. More than 90% of the FPOs are filing annual returns as per MCA guidelines. I can't ask for a better result.
Right.
So it's been really, touch wood, really, really good. And what we are going to do next is we've embarked on a digitization, and we are also bringing in water as a key element and supporting farmers to look at water security, create some community based water conservation structures, or rejuvenate dried bore wells, or install drip irrigation. So, various combinations of stuff that we are looking at. So, and when it comes to healthcare, we have 28 telemedicine centers, and we have seen double the footfall per day in the health centers ever since it was set up. Now what it does is it provides immediate access to a specialist, to somebody coming far from a community. The medicine is prescribed there, the diagnosis is done on the spot, and you get the medicine from the local pharmacy.
Right.
So it's a win-win, right? The health footfalls increase to the primary healthcare center. The patient goes well diagnosed and well treated, and you have specialists like pediatrics, gynecologists, dermatologists, diabetologists, cardiologists, nephrologists, you name it, and the specialist is just a call away. And I think this program has brought to us two big things. We have been able to capture the early non-communicable disease patients who never realized that they had hypertension or diabetes. It was only when they used telemedicine services and got in touch with the specialist were they diagnosed. Right. Second, we bought in breast cancer screening facilities in our health camps, and we have been able to teach a lot of community women to do self-examination, because one in every five women is prone to get breast cancer, and the cost to the family and to the country for a cancer patient is humongous.
Yes.
So if you can, through early detection, capture breast cancer signs quickly, treat it is curable, it is preventable in that sense. So we are doing a lot of breast cancer screenings, and we are helping women to become empowered to do their own self examination. I think these two things have been very, very distinct for and innovative in our projects.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, and especially given the fact that you are bringing these kind of services in the aspirational districts where the need for such basic services is the most among the population there is commendable, ma'am. And moving means continuing with the same thought, ma'am, that when we talk about health in India, and given that COVID gave us this kind of an sort of an uh, awakening that health is most important uh, kind of sector that we need to focus, whether it was government, whether it is ourselves. There was a personal introspection at the national level and at the personal level towards the health, that how important it is and and it should be the first priority. So but at the same time, ma'am, India remains one of those countries where there is a very wide difference between what should be there and what is there on the ground. As a leader, as a CSR leader, thought leader, ma'am, what would you suggest? And given that you're working in representing an organization that has a large health portfolio, and you're also taking care of the CSR projects, what is your suggestion and what is your vision? How should this sector really be transformed so that it really caters to the need of the population which are on the ground and where it actually matters, like one of the programs of yours?
So I think the fundamental principle for working in healthcare is to make it accessible and affordable, right? And I think by setting in telemedicine centers, we have managed to do both,
Right.
right? One is, of course, the accessibility. Primary healthcare centers are there. I think the government has done an excellent job, but often you don't find doctors, and so community people also stop going. So our first objective is, how do you strengthen existing structures instead of reinventing the wheel and setting up something new? We always had the option, right, of setting up a telemedicine center separately somewhere, of our own. We said no, we want to work in existing premises of the government And the purpose becomes duofold, right? One is it strengthens the primary healthcare center. We have had physicians from primary healthcare centers come and tell us that we are so grateful because now I'm able to get more patients, and also I'm able to shift the patients who really need specialists to the TMC office, which is in the same building the next door. So, it also raises the credibility of the local doctor over there. Because a patient is referred by the local doctor. The local doctor is your first point of contact, who will say, I think you need a specialist intervention. Please go to the next door. So, right. So, I think that's the approach we have looked at. How do you not reinvent the wheel? How do you strengthen something that is really existing? How do you work with the government? And I have seen that government is very open to working and partnering with corporates as long as you go with solutions. It's easy to go to the government with a problem, but I think if you go with a solution and say this is what we think can work and we would like to work, they open the doors for you. So and also remember, not every partnership with government needs to be on a finance or a financial basis. It can be on goodwill, it could be on sharing of resources, right? And I think that works wonderfully. So we just need a letter from the local district health officer saying this is the district, we want the telemedicine center to be set up, corporate, and everything works. Everything works. I don't think there can be a better example of making healthcare accessible. When it comes to the affordability part, our endeavor has been to see, can we work on the e-Sanjeevani platform of the government? Can we ensure that the medicines are available and the patient takes it from the local pharmacy itself? So I think when you look at that purpose, of course, sometimes specialist treatments require specialist medicines, but those cases are not the one that really are in majority. Many of those medicines are available in pharmacies, and our endeavor has been to ensure that the patient gets end-to-end treatment when he comes to the telemedicine center. It goes back with the medicine in hand.
Right.
That allows follow-up. We have got excellent rates of follow-up. This is also a big problem. People don't come for a follow-up. But here, because they see that the doctor is immediately out, the waiting time would be just 5 minutes, Adarsh.
Right.
Because the doctors are empaneled, they're sitting behind the computer scene, and as soon as you connect, they come on the screen, and the patient can see, and the doctor can see the patient. So the follow up also accelerates, and that enhances the treatment and the prognosis. So I think when you look at this kind of a solution, you are taking care of tertiary costs that would have otherwise come in if the disease would have progressed and the patient would have need to be hospitalized or things like that.
Right, ma'am. This brings us to the last question, ma'am. CSR Box is creating a compendium of aspirations for India at when it completes its 100 years of independence, pertaining to your sectors, ma'am. That is farmers, healthcare, and as a CSR thought leader, what would your vision of India at 2047 entail? And if you could share a few words on that.
Yeah. Adarsh, my dream really is to see more and more organizations looking at CSR as a very strategic tool for, say, reputation building, for license to operate, and for implementing really very strong development projects. I still come across organizations which are happy donating money away and not really getting into execution and implementation of projects. So I think that wind is changing. Purpose is becoming big for organizations, and the minute purpose comes in and the minute ESG becomes mandatory, I'm going to see CSR become more strategic. So that's one. The second also is that I'm going to see CSR become more deeper and not wider. We ourselves are looking at, can we now going ahead, just limit ourselves to particular geographies, but do more deep work, pick up more districts, and bring in more strong commitments in those communities rather than spreading ourselves thin. So I think that trend will come up. The other trend, I think, is a lot of NGOs and implementation partners are going to look within and see how can they become more valuable to corporates and foundations and trusts. How can they harness the CSR funds not just to implement but also to sharpen their own processes, right? And how can I see my implementation partners as local state level advocates for policy. So I'm seeing that going ahead, NGOs could become a very potent policy, what do you say, advocate for the corporate, because they are the ones who are the frontline connect with the state governments, local state governments. So the policy push will become very, very central, and implementing partners for CSR foundations or trusts will be the ones who will drive this. I think they have the ears on the ground, the implementing partners, and they can push for relevant policy reforms. So what does that mean for corporates in the future? I think corporates should look at putting their CSR funds to nurture these kind of implementing partners. They need to provide them with enabling tools like coaching, mentoring, and fund the organizational development of their partner NGOs. I think these are a couple of few things that I see happening. And of course, there is the startup world that is proliferating. I see a lot of corporates will go join. Today, there are a few, but many more who will look at not just incubation, but providing the market linkage to the startup. The last mile effort, which is required for a startup to sell its product, is what I think foundations in social development can give. So, and that will mean a lot of opportunities for blended finance to come in, because you will need external donors or somebody to keep working on projects. Corporates will need to move out after a particular time, but you need to leave behind sustainable projects.
Right. Ms. Behl, thank you so much. That's all we have time for today. And I think our audience would have learned something new and something very insightful with respect to whether you talk about healthcare sector and how the focus should be, right, you rightly said, on not reinventing the wheel, but strengthening what we already have. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Adarsh. Thank you so much.